This week we're talking about peer review in the online comp course, and I would like to share two things. The first thing is something I feel I do a pretty good job at. At least I like what happens when I do it. And then the other thing I want to share, because I feel I am sinning against some of Warnock's advice, and I'm interested in a response and how I might make it better. Okay, so first of all, let me share the assignment. I've decided to focus on an assignment I do very early in the semester. This is the first major essay. Essentially, it's a textual analysis essay in which students have to find the controlling idea, the most important controlling idea, in a song that they're choosing, and they can just focus on the sound of it, just the lyrics, just the music video, or they can kind of combine all of these elements to draw out this main idea and show why it's important. So I like it as a first essay because it introduces analysis and organization and development of essays with something that they're familiar with songs. Okay, so right around week 3, so I would have assigned this in week 2. Week 3, we have blog discussions where they're analyzing songs that I've chosen, and I'm getting into the discussion, and we're coming up with ideas, and I'm helping to model what it looks like, and so by week 4, they've chosen their songs. They've got pretty good draft in place, maybe not a complete one, but a couple paragraphs, and they're pretty confident about the task. All right, so the middle of week 4 is when I ask them to exchange complete drafts. And so the night before they do that, so this would be Tuesday night, is when I hold my first synchronous course meeting in CCC Confer. Okay, so this is that just-in-time pedagogy, right? You've got a paper due, and if you come and show up, I'll give you all the keys to the kingdom. Okay, so this moment in our meeting that you see on the screen is about, it's like 30, it says 32 minutes into the meeting. We warmed up with a discussion of text. We talked about thesis statements and paragraph structure and coherence and development, which are things we've been studying, but it's our first time together, so we're kind of reviewing. And I've just linked them to our rubric, which I'm going to use to grade their essays. So this is where I feel like I'm doing something that Warnock advises us to do, but also it's something that I really like what happens next. Okay, so I've just asked them I've asked them to read it quickly and if they've got any ideas. And one of my students has asked about the phrase, what measures the unity of ideas? Okay, and so for the next couple minutes, what I do is I refer back to the reading we covered at the beginning of the meeting. I ask them how unified or how connected, I think I use different language, paragraphs were, ideas were, and that reading was somewhat disjointed. And then I ask them to find boxes in the rubric that describe that writing, and we get into a little bit of a debate. Okay. As this is happening, other students are asking other questions about this rubric, so this is where the synchronous meeting gets kind of wild and fun. But for about the next 7 minutes or so, we clarify what it is I mean with the language I'm using in my rubric. After this, what I do is I link them to a sample student paper, okay? Which I have no idea. Oh, sweet, it did. It displayed. I ask him to read it for a few minutes, and after that, I ask him to choose a box somewhere in the rubric that describes this writing. And I'm not sure if we'll have enough time for you to see the chat unfold, but very quickly they start asking about thesis statements. They can't find it in this particular essay. So then one student thinks they've found it, so they start highlighting that particular passage. And then because they eventually can find it, but it's not apparent at the beginning, they start searching through the rubric boxes to figure out which of those categories best describes that kind of rubric or that kind of thesis statement. All right, so we do this for about 10 minutes. I like it for a couple reasons. It gives them a model paper, and I always choose kind of like the B- paper because it shows them strengths, but it shows them areas to improve as well. But it also gives them a clear, concrete artifact upon which to, right, apply that rubric language. Okay, this is what we found in real life, this sort of slippery, sneaky, but present thesis, and here's the language in the rubric that seems to fit that. Okay, so it's a nice It does a lot of things at once as we're getting ready for peer review. The other thing that I'm doing constantly while they're formulating their just impressions of the writing and grappling with the rubric is they'll slip and say things like, you know, I'm not sure. Uh, well, they'll critique the writing in a way that really highlights what's wrong with it, right? And I'll step in and try to just offer kind of my modes of commentary, that formative commentary. Let's not see this as writing that's flawed. Let's see this as writing that's still in process. So let's find opportunities for strength. And so I try to model that constructive criticism. But at the same time recognizing that there's room for growth, right? Not just as Warnock points out, it's not just celebrating, right, or cheerleading. It's critiquing. Okay. So the final stage of this workshop, which I won't show you much, is I invite them to a Google Doc with categories for them to input pieces of their draft as they have it before the workshop. And they are able to read each other's body paragraphs. Okay, I ask them to highlight the pieces of that body paragraph. So what looks like evidence, what looks like analysis, what looks like claims. And based on these two body paragraphs, they guess each other's thesis statement. Okay, so again, I don't ask them to critique at this stage. What I ask them to do is explore kind of those concepts, right, of organization and development, but in a way that's anticipating where this writing will go, that gives feedback, right, and also gives some impressions at the same time. Okay, in other words, the writer receiving this highlighting and this guest thesis gets the sense of, wow, they guessed my thesis, my stuff must be right on track, or wow, that's a way better thesis than I would have thought of, or I'm not going in that direction at all, I need to change some stuff. Okay, so it's kind of a pre-draft peer workshop. Okay, all right, so this is what I think I like about the way I go about workshopping. It equips us for the workshop to come. It gives us the language and the criteria to apply. Where I feel I am sinning, and this will be quick because I don't want to display my sins for too long. I use the peer mark feature and Turnitin for my peer workshops. And what I asked them to do, each student reads 2 essays, and they have to answer questions, which Warnock says we shouldn't do. And my questions are designed based on the prompt. So if the prompt is looking for thesis, if it's looking for quotes, which this one doesn't, but or MLA integration, or just successfully weaving in sources, I'll design these questions around that. And I do that because at the very bare minimum, a student who is looking at those questions will be reminded, oh, I have to do that in my paper. Okay, that's my strategy. But beyond that, there are some cool things that happen. Some of my questions, I tell them, use the comment feature and highlight some language and actually give some commentary in the essay. And so they'll do things like this, okay? They'll highlight a passage, they'll put these little thought bubbles and say things like, well, consider breaking your paragraph here, which is one of the questions I ask them, right, is where do ideas clunk together or mix? Where can they separate and emphasize and clarify, okay? So it does lead to some cool stuff like this, but it also leads to, right, kind of some stock answers, some rephrasing of my question with some language that describes what's going on here. So I feel like this is the part that I'm not super happy with, okay? So I am interested in both what the group thinks, as well as, where our discussion goes in general. So thank you very much.